All right. Hello, friends, and welcome back to another B3D and Chill episode. Let me know if you can hear me. Uh, Please clap once. I'm going to go ahead and assume that you can because I was in a call right before this and they could hear me. But in the event that you can't hear me, please let me know. I'll give you a couple of minutes while I check on the stream here. Everything seems to be going well over on Twitch as well as YouTube. It's kind of tricky to do this as a one-person show. And I don't need these because I'm talking a lot louder than I would be if I weren't listening to that lo-fi. But if you want the lo-fi back on, let me know because we can do that. So without further ado, I'll have a sip. And we'll get started. Welcome back to B3D and Chill. In today's episode, I will be cleaning up some Photoscans. Insert sound of children hooraying here. I was recently in Colorado and was frequenting the nearby coffee shops near to where we were staying, and I found this one mannequin and CBD drink dispenser combination just impossible not to scan. So obviously I went ahead and did that, even though I tried to be really selective about my scans because the scan library is just growing so extensive and becoming a bit unwieldy to organize. But I went ahead and scanned it, and that's what we'll be working with today. So rather than hearing me blab on about this, why don't we just get right to it? So we'll jump into Blender. I'm not going to narrate everything as I do it, but if you have questions that about the things that I'm doing, then feel free to write them in the comments and I'll be sure to read those. I can read both the stream chats here. So we'll be doing that. First things first, I'll load in the scan from my scans folder. It's really important to try to be as organized as you can when you start building out your asset libraries, specifically with scans, and that's something I'm working on at the moment. This is the scan, so before anything, let's have a look at what we'll be working with. So this is a fridge. That's the word that was escaping me earlier. So I said dispenser, same concept. And this is a mannequin, clearly, with a lot of cool art. Hopefully we don't get the stream banned due to, you know, censorship of human bodies and whatnot. Some cool fire stuff. I'm not sure we'll keep it. There's a cool table here. Not cool, it was just a chair. You've seen chairs before. That I sat on and read for a bit. And this other fridge here that had Rockstar drinks. And yeah, it seems like this was the energy drink corner, 5-hour energy and the like. All in all, it scanned pretty well. I did this using Polycam's photo mode. And I avoided as best as I could looking like a weirdo, kind of trying to really delicately and really thoroughly capture the scene as we saw it unfold. But I'm glad that I took the time and did it because otherwise I wouldn't have the scan to play with. So people will just have to get used to having others walking around weirdly photo scanning stuff because that's going to be our future. 12 o'clock films. Thanks for joining. I see you over in the YouTube chat. Thanks for hanging out. This is going to be a casual stream. I'll try to do these more often, especially now that I am back. There's a couple of projects that I'm really excited to talk about, as well as the continuation of the Exploring Photogrammetry series. This will be not the final video, but I'll try to round out the series of with 3 videos. So far we've done Exploring Photogrammetry, making films with Blender and your phone, part 1 and 2. Part 2 focusing primarily on the actual cleanup of and sculpting and such, which we'll be covering some of today. And part 3 will focus a bit more on the different workflows for animating scans, bringing them to life, and that is coming soon, and a couple of other really fun news and projects on the way. But let's get back to the task at hand and see if we can't clean up this scan. All right. So we're here over in the shader editor, and I'm just going to really quickly bring the specular all the way down because I like it like that. And we'll just get to cleaning. So as I've explained in some of my, in the recent videos specific to photogrammetry, some of the best ways to clean up scans are either using booleans or using edit mode, selecting the faces that you wish to remove from the scan, and then removing them. But you'll notice if I make a selection like I did just now, and I rotate, there are many faces that are not being selected. And this is because we don't have X-ray selection on. If I were to toggle this mode up here in the top right of the screen, toggle X-ray, shortcut Alt-Z, I would be able to then select beyond what's visible to me. And this is really handy when you want to clean scans up evenly or quickly. And we'll shoot for as clean as we can get it, but I'm not too worried about it being perfect, because we can always tweak it or even cheat it later. So this was actually meant to be, or is meant to be, a really casual stream. And by that, I mean, if you want to say hello and just have a full-on conversation, all you need to do is just write something in the chat and I will get distracted, and then we'll start talking about that, and I'll continue doing this in the background. But I find that every now and then it's fun to work that way. In fact, I'm just coming over from the Blender Nest Discord server, in which I was pretty much doing the same thing as I was getting set up for this and doing the audio check and the visual check and all of that fancy behind the scenes movie magic. And it's always a great way to catch up with people, find out what they're doing, or the sort of things that they're working on or excited about, and get to know them a little bit better, while also kind of moving forward and advancing in your own projects. And we'll host some more of those over on my Discord server, so you can find a link to it in the description. I'll try to use this button, see if it works. Boom, that should have pushed a note out to the streams with my links, and I'm gonna quickly check on YouTube for that, make sure that worked. Part of the reason for doing this is also to test out workflows for streaming that make things a bit smoother and funner for me, you know, since I kind of already have to deal with seeing my face and then hearing my voice once, and then know that it's living on and that you're doing the same. But yeah, if you're watching, appreciate you. I don't think the stream link went out based on this check here on YouTube, so I will just post it manually. And this is why we do these test streams. So here's the link on YouTube, and I will paste it over on Twitch. It's just my name, same as the channel.com/links, and that will help you find my page as well as my other socials. Seems like I can't easily contribute to the chat here on Twitch. I'll just do it from my phone. A hot tip, which is not something that I've done yet, but something I will do shortly after this stream, is to actually create shortcuts for these sort of links as words on your phone's keyboard. So for example, if you did !links, and you wrote that out, it would just auto-complete with whatever text you want to include it. So these kind of keyboard shortcut situations are really helpful when you're doing streams or just trying to shave off a couple of seconds of time. So we'll get right back to the scan now that I see that both of these have posted, and here we are. And I think just for the sake of having something other than my voice in the background, I will very quickly add in the music, audio, output capture. we'll use desktop audio. And now that sweet lo-fi hip hop should be coming through. Let's see if that worked. Yep, great. I hear in the background, we are rocking and rolling. It's been a while since I've done one of these, and as much as I love talking and hearing my own voice, which is both true and not true, takes some getting used to. So if you're still watching, thanks for hanging in there, and I hope you're doing okay. So this process can get very boring very quickly, but the great thing about it is that you only really have to do it once. Now, if I wanted to, I guess I've already removed the planter that was here with plants, but I could always kind of go back or bring the scan back in and then remove that on its own if I wanted to. Same with this spaceship situation, although that wasn't captured in too much detail. And same with this cool lamp fire looking thing. If you are around my age, then you probably remember everyone in school trying to draw this fire symbol here. I admittedly was never very good at it, but you know, I tried. I really did. And I'll just do some broad strokes, sweeping selection situation here just to get us going. Hopefully I won't remove too much of the fridge because we do need that, at least for the piece that I'm envisioning. And I guess in the meantime, as I'm selecting this stuff, I can talk a little bit about my process for scanning this, which entailed being very still. And as I mentioned earlier, kind of dodging the views of bystanders who are wondering why I'm so cautiously walking around this situation. There was a glass here that obviously separated the drinks from the outside world, as most fridge situations like this one have, and you can kind of see the remnants of it based on the way that these price tags are kind of jutting out, but there's no actual geometry here because by nature of the way that the scan recreated the scene, it just missed the glass, so we can add that back in, no problem, if we so choose. And there are other bits and bobs of the scene that just didn't get captured properly, so we can either tweak those up, or we can either tweak those or recreate them all together. I'm using the Lasso Selection here to try to get rid of most of these faces. And as you'll see in the bottom left corner of my screen, whenever I move anything or navigate around Blender, you will see the shortcuts that I'm using. So if you have questions about those, have a look there. If you happen to miss one, feel free to ask in the chat and I'll do my best to let you know what it was that I was pressing to do any given thing. But for the sake of my breath, I will refrain from listing them out loud if I can remember to do that. Yeah. So you see how we have all these jagged edges here, and it's not looking great. It's not bad. It's not great. We can get rid of that quite quickly by adding in a cube and setting it in place to about where we want to make our cut. And it's important that we get a holistic perspective on this as well as other things in life by trying to get a different vantage point. So we'll do that. We'll select the item that we want to remove and the item that we want to have the first selected item removed from. And we'll hit Control-Shift-B or Shift-Control-B if you're fancy. And that will bring up the bool tool. One other way that we can do this is by using modifiers, which are here, right, let's see, right over, oh, lost my finger, right up there. And you can simply add modifier and locate the Boolean modifiers under the generate column, and it will achieve the same result. But for the sake of helping you with some shortcuts that I wish I'd learned a bit sooner, we'll do it with a shortcut. And so again, that is selecting, Blender is thinking, I'm gonna save really quickly, just in case. That is my reminder to save, your reminder to drink water. I'll down some tea. So we want to select the item that we want to have removed from the other item or items. So we'll select this one first, the cube. In this case, we want to remove the cube or something cube shaped from our scan. Control-Shift-B, because we want to have control over the Booleans, and we'll select difference. You can tell from the image in the difference modifiers or the difference Boolean operation that the item that is in the sort of marching ants or selection icon is being removed from the item that is the complete cube. If this doesn't make sense, or if I'm not explaining it in a way that is easily parsable, I would just recommend to have a look at the icons, because I didn't do that at first and I was quite confused about what different operation did what, and it wasn't really until I actually stopped for a moment and had a look at the different operators' icons or iconography that I was able to discern what I was doing when applying the different Booleans. So just have a look at the icons and they will help you get informed. And then the documentation as well from Blender is quite extensive, or at least quite useful when you don't really know how to use any specific modifier. So we're gonna hit difference here and wait, and we'll see that a perfect cube shape has been removed, leaving no jagged edges. Hooray! All right. So far, so good. At this point, this is kind of how I like to work. I'll just start doing something completely different from cleaning up the scan, like maybe getting an angle set up, just so that I don't get too bored with the project, or, you know, gotta make it interesting, keep it fun somehow and challenging. So we'll just switch up to something completely different, like lighting, and then come back to this. At the moment, in my default scenes, I have 4 light setup. It's 3-point lights, which you can see selected here, and 1 sun lamp. Really quickly though, let's make sure that our scale is accurate. We want to move, we just want to be sure. The default cube is about 2 meters, and that is 6.5 feet, which is one very tall person. Don't believe that this scan was that tall, although maybe this fridge might have been. So we'll just leave it as is, but I'll tell you what. We'll bring the lights in closer so we have a better idea of what we're working with and on. And maybe we can do this in this view. And quickly go back to this mode. Okay, not too bad. I mean, I'll get rid of this light actually, and just for the sake of being clean, actually get rid of all the lights. That's okay. And so with just the sun selected, we're gonna give us some lighting situations here. Maybe that's what we want for the sun. Again, we're working in Blender, so you can do whatever the heck you want. It's great. Let's add a floor. Scale that up. Can't really see what we're doing, but now we can. Great. And let's shove this down a bit into the ground so we don't have to worry too much about that. Great. And we'll go into the Sculpt Tool and clean this up a bit soon. So far, so good. Let's see how we're looking. Okay, it's quite dark. I vaguely remember there being a bit more light on our character. What's going on with the sun? Okay, we'll just hit R twice, and this will allow us to rotate our light with more freedom. And really, I just want to get some definition, but not too much. So maybe we can, there we go, that's fine. We'll quickly add a material to this. I'm using the Blender Kit add-on. It comes pre-installed with Blender. If you don't know how to enable it, I'll show you how to do that really quickly. For this and all other add-ons, you'll go to your Edit menu, Preferences, Add-ons, and search for the name of the add-on that you want to turn on. In this case, we're working with Blender Kit. It's already enabled on my Blender. I don't believe it will be for yours right off the bat, but it comes pre-installed, so you don't have to add anything new. You just have to click the check mark, and then you'll have it. So with that said, we can add a material from this library of materials. I will choose something like a dirt material, and we'll see the different previews showing up. Also really quickly save just in case. I like Julio's materials. He's done a lot of them, or they've done a lot of them in Substance, Alchemist or Designer, if I'm not mistaken, maybe even in Painter. But you can just have a field day here choosing different materials to work with. So we'll go with this dirt, mud, water for now. You won't be able to see it too much because we're applying it to a relatively dark scene. And I don't believe I set the scale for this. Now that I have, maybe select the material. Nope, still a bit too large. One of the benefits of using Blender Kit is that you get some of the actual node setups for creating the material, or at least some very standard node setups that you can use to create your own materials or modify the materials that you're using. And the majority of these are Creative Commons licensed materials, if I'm not mistaken. Getting a bit smacking. Let's use the generated text. There we go. Coordinates instead, and maybe scale this up. Maybe scale this down. There we go. I'm happier with that. And we're starting to see some definition, which is good. I'll also now apply the subdivision modifier. Save again, just in case. And see if I can't remember how to displace. So we're going to look for the displace modifier, create a new displacement texture, and I believe over here in the texture properties, we can select the type of distortion or texture that we want to apply to then distort this image. In this case, I will use Musgrave. And maybe we'll do it in this view so we can see what we're doing and remove X-ray. And so here we get a preview of the texture that we're using. I'm not too sure that that's what I want. So let's check on Voronoi. This looks a bit better. Well, shades move real quick. Cha-cha. And let's work with the size here. Looks good. I kind of want these to be a bit smoother. I wonder if I need more intensity or something. But also, let's just quickly check framing to see if we should even bother with that. Maybe not. 0.01. Let's see. No, 0.02. Huh. It's not even that much. Okay, kind of like it like this. We might need some more geometry, but we can worry about that later. Now that we've got this set up, let's get some more lights going. Like maybe a light for this fringe situation we've got here. Not bad. And to select just that light, where'd you go? Keep it organized, plain, all this ground. We'll call this mannequin. I'm not sure that's how you spell mannequin, but it is now. Hey, Sotamonte, thanks for joining. Appreciate it. Thanks for joining the stream. I'm not sure if you're still on. I just saw your message, but sleep well. Thanks for hanging out. And 12 o'clock films. I'm glad you love the scan. I love it too. It's one of favorite scans that I've taken with Polycam yet, because it just, you know, it's basically all the magic done for me already. This really cool sort of design on this mannequin, a bunch of different tattoos from different artists, presumably, and all these fun shapes to work with. Fantastic. Get rid of some of this geometry. One way to do this, to preserve the integrity of the skin, would be to go into edit mode and look for sculpt mode, sorry, and look for trim. Box trim, there we go. Here. Lasso trim. And then we select the area that we want to trim really carefully. Cross our fingers that Blender doesn't crap out on us. You might hear my computer struggling and thinking in the background, and then it's gone. And what I like about this method is that it fills in the missing places for you. It doesn't necessarily replace the geometry properly, but it doesn't destroy it too much. And that's something that we can easily clean up in edit mode later, in sculpt mode, sorry. I'm distracted by this Belcher poster here, which looks like a fun indie comic. Maybe it's not indie, but still a fun comic nonetheless. We won't see behind here all that much. I can get rid of this just to save us some more processing time. Just quickly go back here and in edit mode with lasso selection on. Let's see. Grab all this stuff we don't need. X-ray's not on, but I think that's good because we kind of, nope, not good. Let's see. Maybe I could take my own advice and use some geometry to get rid of this here, but it feels like a safer way to do it, so. Make sure we're not getting rid of too much. Right. Feels good. Be gone. Delete faces. And go back into edit mode. Make sure we are using, yep, Lasso Select. Another hot tip is that you can toggle through different selection modes. If you are, for example, in box select, but you want to go to circle select, so we're in box select, and we want to go to circle select, you just hit W, and now we're in circle select. If you hit W again, we're in lasso select. Hit W again, different type of selection. I think that's grab. Hit W again, box, you get the idea. And the other type of selection was actually tweak. That is a time-saving tip right there, if I've ever heard one. Plane, rotate it. We'll size it up for this box. Basis Hustia, thanks so much for hanging out. The Witcher having issues digesting his potions. Tell me about it. Thanks for hanging out and coming through. I'm sorry I didn't see your message on time if I happen to miss it, but I appreciate you coming through. Yeah, alright. Push this in there. We'll go into the shading tab or shading workspace, select this part of the fridge that we've just created, name it as such, and we'll add a material to it. Make it black, like the fridge. Maybe we can do more than just that and really incorporate it into the fridge. So we'll extend this out, E to extrude, S to scale, if you know Infensia, it's a YouTuber and Blender artist, and those words will be familiar. So we'll just select this, Control-Shift-B, delete it, or use difference Boolean. It didn't work out the way I thought it would, so Control-Z is our friend. And we'll just do this instead. We'll make it all fridge on all sides. There we go. Picking out a little bit here, and that's okay. And it's not the same color, that's also okay, because we can really quickly fix that by selecting the material that we want to adjust and using the eyedrop tool, picking out a version of the color that we want to most accurately match, and then use that color instead. Why am I not selecting the right one here? There we go. Oh, this is the handle. I was wondering what this bit jutting out here was, and that's the handle for the fridge, which we can recreate. Just gotta quickly take this. I say quickly, but really I just mean eventually. Take this and let's see, rotate it on the X by 90. Before we do that though, quickly go into Sculpt And let's just flatten this bit out. I was wondering what this was. Turns out it was the hand. Alright, that's not really working out as intended, so we'll try something else. Grab will work, but maybe not like that. What can we do? It seems to be a lot. I think actually this might be our best bet. So we'll go into sculpt mode, leave this. And where's that handy dandy trim? Box, yeah, we'll do box 1. That doesn't look like a box. Uh-oh. I've always wondered what happens if you don't select something. And we're about to find out. Nothing. Great. Box selection. And we'll just get rid of it. Ah, I missed a bit at the top, but you know what? Who's counting? Oh. Poor decisions. We'll just take it back. Leave this workspace as it was. And just move forward. I'll make the handle. Call it a day. As far as the handle is concerned. Like this, and turn on proportional editing. Grab the handle. Just walk all that back quickly. Now we'll grab the handle. So good. Shade smooth. We see this weird pinching in the middle. It's because there's not too many. There we go. Not enough geometry for it to work with. We'll switch to auto smooth. And for some reason this looks slightly worse. That's okay. We'll just paste it on top. There we go. Friendly reminder to come back and work on this. What else? Remove this. Got a 12 o'clock says use a mask. Yeah, that sounds like the move. Except I won't lie to you, I'm not too well versed with using masks yet. At least as far as Blender's concerned. But let's do it. Lasso mask. Okay. I don't want any of this. Save that. It's pretty simple to me. Box hide. Box trim. Okay, so now we'll just select all this stuff. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it's so much simpler than... Okay. Maybe not. But close. That. It's the same lasso trim situation. I mean, we lost a side of the face. That was never really there to begin with, so still up, technically. And we still got our really dark lighting situation. That's looking better. Go into mask settings. Sculpt. Let's see. Awesome. Where are mask settings? Oh, mask here. Fill clear. Huh? Expand. Wow, there's so much stuff here. Dirty mask. That sounds like what I just did. I'll have to play with this later. But for the sake of not dwelling too long on that, let's get this area light pumping. It's like, and we'll want a different color than that. So maybe some, yeah. Okay. What else? Clearly we need more than just those lights. Got a point light now. And let's just exaggerate it real quick. Maybe that's not what we want. Maybe a spotlight makes the most sense. I get the feeling that everything is way bigger or smaller actually than it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Okay. This ground's looking a bit much, but we won't really see that. We gotta power this spotlight up. Where's this light relative to our scene? No, this is very obviously too much. I'm just trying to sort out. There we go. There we go. I'm starting to get more definition, more shape here. This ground's not looking great, but that's okay. I'm gonna replace it fairly quickly. I also intend on covering some of this up with foliage. Before we do that, let's take some time to clean up the scan. So we'll just hide this temporarily, go back into this view, and I will use tablet to comfortably clean this up a bit. What I'm doing here is using the smooth a combination of the smooth and flatten tools to essentially clean up some of this bumpiness that we see here. And then I can go in afterwards in more detail, increase the detail, or with more precision increase the detail. It's good to toggle between rendered view and not every now and then, just so that you can have an idea of what you're working on, or rather working with. And occasionally change the size of your brush to better fit the sort of detail that you want to create or remove from your scene using the Sculpt tool. Yeah. So I'm using Shift and holding down Shift, and that's giving me the Smooth tool, and I've manually selected Flatten as the other tool. That will just bring out, or rather than bring out, that will just flatten detail rather than smooth it. We can continue smoothing this out. Select the draw brush here, just so that I can add some more dimension to this door. Seems like we're jutting out a bit here. Let's see what that's about. Okay, if we squeeze that in there, I think it's fine. No one but you and I will know, really, so that's that. Go back into sculpt mode, into this view. Now we can use the draw brush. Actually, let's do the sharp to accentuate this grate here. Or not. Maybe that's not what I have selected. Yep, there we go. If you hold Control, it will Sculpt tool will do the inverse of the operation that you have selected. So in this case, I have draw sharp, which draws in, but I'm holding Control, and that's pulling out this line, which is quite the squiggly line. We'll use smooth here to smooth that out, because I don't like the way it's looking all pinched. And we'll just use crease. Is this crease? Nope. Where are you, crease? Here it is. To bring that detail back to some degree, at least. See how it's looking. I mean, not bad. Or how long have we been going for? 54 minutes. Not bad. Oh, we have a question. Ghost Pro 451 asks, I got a question for you. I'm new to Blender. I'm trying to import a SMD file. There's no option for that. I'm trying to get a model in Blender. It's from Deltarune, a game I found the model online. Well, Ghost Pro 451, if you're still here, I'm not sure what an SMD file is, so I'm gonna have to quickly look it up. Game ROM used by Sega Genesis. So you found the file online, and you want to bring it into game, or rather into Blender. SMD. And look up SMD in Blender. Blender open SMD. Seems like somebody's created a tool, so an add-on for Blender that you can use to import SMD models and animations into Blender, or meshes and animations. I won't post a link in the chat, but if you look up SMD in Blender, the first 2 to 3 results on Google, as well as YouTube, have the answers that you seek. Seems like it was last updated in 2011, maybe? There's also a couple of Reddit posts about it. And I would recommend maybe looking up how to convert SMD into a different file format if you don't have any luck using the original file that you found in Blender. So hopefully you're still here. Hopefully that's helpful. But let me know in the comments or not in the comments, in the chat, if you are still around and if that doesn't work for some reason. All right, so I'll continue for just a couple minutes before we call this one. But so far we've got the scene, we've kind of sculpted it a little bit. It's looking good for the most part. You know, relatively clean scan here, courtesy of this cafe, courtesy of Polycam, courtesy of me, courtesy of you. And wow. Yeah, now it's, as I was saying earlier, it's good to toggle between different parts of the whole gig. So this entails, lighting, which we worked on briefly. It entails sculpting, which we also worked on briefly. Materials, all of that. This looks really messy. So we'll see if we can clean that. But part of the reason why it's good to do that is so that you don't get bored, so that you can try to see the piece of work or the scan that you're working with or the art that you're making from different directions, and just keep it moving. At least I find that's one of the ways I enjoy working the most. I'm gonna clean up a bit of the skin, just a bit because it's looking rough. This eye here too is just struggling. That's okay, we won't see too much of that. This bit here too is just creating so much shadow. I'm tempted to replace it, and in fact I'll do just that. One of the fun bits of using scans is obviously you're not stuck to or stuck with what you originally scanned, you can always build on top of it. So for example, as much as I love the artwork for this indie looking comic, maybe we don't want to give that free exposure coin to a comic we don't know about, or some company that we don't really know about. So we'll just create a placeholder here for a different poster that we can make. If you have any ideas for cool band names that we can make a pretend poster for to flesh out this piece, please drop them in the chat and I'll work on that off stream and probably add it in the next one, which will be tomorrow. So you can join tomorrow at around the same time. If you aren't already, subscribe so you get the notification for when that happens so you don't miss it. So we'll do that. We've added this poster, and now duplicate that as by Shift D. Am I still in sculpting mode? Not yet. I'm sculpting viewport, but not even sculpting. Okay. Go back to layout. Why is that? Okay. The normals, probably. That's okay. We're about to cover it up anyway. So we'll just take this. Ghost Pro 451 says in the chat, I'm trying to get in Blender, then to Unity, then upload it to VRChat so I can do custom items on it for that model. I also have to somehow get the textures for it. Do you have any tips of learning Blender for beginners? Yes. On the front of the workflows for getting the model that you're working with into Blender and then uploading it to VRChat and the like, that's beyond the scope of today's video or this stream, but feel free to reach out to me on social media or join the Blenderness community Discord server, which you can also find just by finding my name online, and I'm sure someone there will have an answer for that question. And on the note of any tips for learning Blender for beginners, I'll kind of name drop the Blenderness community Discord server. Let me type that in both chats. And in fact, let me just post the links to. Here we go. If you join this server, posted here in the chat on YouTube, and I'll post it as well on Twitch. If you join that server, you'll find many people who are 3D artists working in Blender and other 3D tools who might be able to help you with an answer to that question. Here's the invite as well. So join that and feel free to reach out to any of the people in the general chats, or actually specifically in the help chat on those servers. Because yeah, both the Blenderness Discord server as well as my server have a bunch of 3D artists who are actively helping people out with questions or fielding questions such as this one, and they might be able to help you out. On top of that, a lot of the Blender educators on YouTube or online are part of these servers and are also very active in them, sharing both their progress as well as tips and tricks and answering questions and fielding them and such. So my tip to you for learning Blender for beginners would be to kind of embed yourself in the community on Discord. It doesn't have to be mine, doesn't have to be Blenderness. There are many, many communities out there for Blender where you can not only see what other people are working on or working with and get feedback, but also just keep yourself accountable, keep yourself making things and learning shortcuts and new ways of thinking about or navigating Blender and 3D art more generally. I think those would be the safest bets for any beginner who's looking to get into Blender or 3D art. I started my journey into Blender at some point in 2020, early January, but really started getting into it in around March. I'd done some stuff in September of 2019, but I wouldn't really call it to focused Blender work. And the things that I'm able to do now are obviously because I put a lot of time and effort into learning them, but also because of the community that has so graciously provided me with tutorials online on YouTube for free and a wealth of education, just accessible and free. And it doesn't really get much better than that, especially when you can just message an educator and really quickly ask them what they meant in a tutorial in one of their Discord servers, or ask for really pointed and specific help, such as the question that you had about importing stuff into VR. So I digress, but that would be my tip for beginners. Peter H says in the chat, great watching your work, made walking in the rain a lot less painful. I'm glad to hear. Great stuff you're doing with the rest of the community in your group streams. Thanks for that. Yeah, we'll be having more live streams both on the Blenderness Discord server as well as my own in the coming days. So look out for those. Consider subscribing both to my channel, their channel, social medias more generally if you want to stay in tune with that, because we do try to do a decent job of keeping people updated with what we're working on. So thanks for tuning in, Peter. Appreciate it. I will now resume setting up these next two posters, and then we'll adjourn for today. So one cool thing that you can do, maybe you didn't know, but I just remembered, you can right click and after setting the the world cursor to a different point on the screen, you'll see it attaches itself. So you can shift and then right click anywhere around in Blender, and the cursor will essentially magnetize itself to the surface that you're pointing on. And this is really handy if you want to move things around very precisely. So in this case, I want to grab the duplicate of this poster that I've made that I intend to turn into a, an advertisement for a brand that I'll make up. You can take it, and now that the cursor has been dropped in that location, I can right click and snap selection to cursor, and there it is. Now we can just rotate it on the z-axis by -90 degrees. It will flip itself to the right orientation. We'll pull it out just slightly, scale it down, and maybe for the sake of keeping this relatively clean, we can just do two posters and just have them look like they're one on top of the other. Bring them back just a little bit closer. Let's get rid of this unnecessary geometry here. That's the best way to do this. We'll probably use sculpting workspace to do that. Pyramid Scheme, thanks for joining. Blender Guru, Derek Alley, Ian Hubert, Stucky3D, Curtis Holt, check out their YouTube channels. You will learn Blender quickly. Yes, any of those that have been mentioned, as well as any of the people on the Blenderness chat or in any of these Discord servers, will be excellent guides. As well as myself, because I will be putting out more content related to Blender in the way that I use Blender to make art, to make films, and for fun. And for work. Yeah, so watch this space. Okay, so we've set up these two posters. I'll really quickly demonstrate how we could bring something in if you don't know it already. We can go to the shader editor, select this poster here, turn on this selection so we can see what we're choosing. We'll add a new material. With Node Wrangler add-on installed, we'll hit Control T, and this will, what this does is that it enables us to use the texture coordinate mapping and image texture nodes to place an image into our scene with ease. You would be able to bring these up if you didn't have Node Wrangler installed by hitting Shift A on your keyboard and then looking for texture, coordinate, mapping, and image texture respectively. But it's just so much easier to hit Control T in order for that to happen. So I recommend installing Node Wrangler if you don't have it installed already. And do a quick check, make sure I'm not missing anyone in the chat. Nope. Sounds good. Or it looks good. And we'll quickly bring in a texture here. So I will pick one at random. Was not expecting to do this, but we'll use an export from a previous project of mine. In this case, we can do this render of a model of me that was created by Logan Gardner, who was recently interviewed in the Blenderness Discord server. So stay tuned for that as well. And while this doesn't have the exact look to match our scene yet, that's something that we can do in the next video. So we'll leave that there for now, and more on this little avatar of me later. But for the time being, this is what our scene looks like. And it's not incredibly detailed, and it's not nearly finished, but we didn't have to model the fridge, we didn't have to model the drinks in the fridge, we didn't have to model the mannequin and all the cool tattoos and do all of that. I just scanned that with my phone. Within 2 to 3 minutes, had the 3D object that we brought in. If you're just tuning in and you hadn't seen the whole workflow, I'll really quickly re-import the model just so that you can have an idea of where we started and where we ended up. And then we will adjourn. But thanks so much for hanging out. So here is the original model from the 3D scan in all its glory. We removed everything except for the mannequin in the fridge, and we were left with this for now. So stay tuned for the next one. Thanks so much for joining. I hope you had a good one. I know I definitely did, and I'm excited to continue this series with you, so feel free to join along. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.